Imagine the immense academic pressures faced by Japanese students, especially young women. These pressures don't just lead to stress and burnout. They can push some down dangerous paths. In a society that values perfect appearances and strict gender roles, what vulnerabilities arise from these intense academic demands? As some young women are pushed into the shadows, catering to male customers for survival, how do outdated practices, such as tattoo discrimination and the normalization of inappropriate interactions in the workplace, worsen this already dire situation, sometimes making it irreparable? Japan is often seen as a land of tranquility, tradition, and advanced technology. Yet beneath this polished image lies a troubling reality. What drives students to such extremes? How does a society devoted to respect and order foster a hidden world of compensated dating, hostess clubs, and predatory behavior? How does this darker side intertwine with Japan's cultural fabric? Join us as we delve into the unsettling truths hidden beneath Japan's polished facade, revealing the stark contrast between its enchanting traditions and the harsh realities that lie within. The hidden pressures of Japanese classrooms. What's the real cost of academic excellence in Japan? It's not just about getting into a top university, it's about survival. In Japan, education is seen as the key to success, but the pressure to excel starts early. Students are pushed to cram for entrance exams that shape their future, creating not just stress, but lasting damage. For many students, especially young women, the pressure to perform becomes unbearable. On social media, countless high school students share their experiences of crying themselves to sleep, overwhelmed by the expectations set by teachers, parents, and society. Failure is not an option, and as the pressure mounts, young girls find their mental health crumbling under the weight of these demands. With no room for failure, some young women, feeling hopeless and trapped, turn to darker alternatives. They may date older men for money, rebel with tattoos and drugs, or distance themselves from family. Unable to find jobs or after running away, many end up in maid cafes, hostess clubs, or even criminal circles, seeking escape in a world far removed from the academic success they once pursued. The rise of compensated dating. Enjo Kosai. What drives a student to trade time with male customers in exchange for money or gifts? The answer lies deep within Japan's cultural norms. Compensated dating, known as Enjo Kosai, emerged in the 1990s as an underground phenomenon. While on the surface, it might seem like harmless dating for gifts, the reality is much darker. Many of these young women are still in high school. In a social media interview, a student from Tokyo shared how she got involved in Enjo Kosai. She started by going to expensive dinners with businessmen, but soon, the encounters took a more sinister turn. Pressured by older men, she found herself being coerced into doing more than just sitting at a table. As her debts piled up, the line between casual dating and sex work began to blur. Japan's patriarchal society, combined with its rigid work culture, creates an environment where these young women feel they have no other way out. For those broke students, Enjo Kosai became a lifeline to pay off debts from their family's financial struggles. But it also entrapped them in a life they never wanted. Maid cafes. Maid cafes in Japan, while quirky and fun on the surface, mask a darker reality for the women working there. What's the price behind the playful smiles and anime-inspired atmosphere? The reality might not be as cheerful as it seems. These cafes, which first appeared in Akihabara in the early 2000s, offer customers an experience straight out of an anime, with waitresses dressed in maid costumes addressing patrons as master or mistress. They serve creatively styled food and engage in interactive games. But behind the playful exterior, maids face tremendous pressure as they mostly have to serve male clients. They must adhere to strict physical standards, often dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, and the constant fear of gaining weight. Foreign maids who work just as hard often face discrimination and are left to navigate a harsher reality in the workplace. While maid cafes have become a staple of Japan's pop culture, they reinforce troubling gender roles and commodify women, leading to long-term mental health impacts and reinforcing societal expectations that extend far beyond the cafe walls. The JK business. The JK business in Japan is a controversial industry that sees high school girls engaging in potentially exploitative activities under the guise of companionship. What compels these young girls to enter such dangerous waters? And how has society allowed this to become normalized? Known as joshi-kusei, these girls often take on part-time work to make ends meet, particularly in vibrant areas like Akihabara. Since the 1990s, the appeal of high school girls has been heavily marketed in anime and idol culture, normalizing interactions between them and older men. While Tokyo introduced regulations in 2017 to protect minors, banning those under 18 from participating, the industry has cleverly adapted, shifting online and evading enforcement. This troubling trend illustrates how deeply embedded these practices are in Japanese society, often blurring the lines between innocence and exploitation. The JK business reveals a troubling mix of cultural norms and economic pressures in Japan, normalizing the exploitation of young girls. Despite regulatory efforts, the industry's adaptability underscores the urgent need for societal change to protect vulnerable individuals from harm. Hostess clubs, more than just entertainment. Hostess clubs offer a facade of glamour while hiding a darker reality for the women who work there. What seems like a dream job quickly turns into a struggle for survival. Take Miki, who was interviewed by a newspaper about how, as a university student, she started her journey as a hostess to fund her education. Initially, it felt like an easy gig, just sitting, drinking, and chatting. But as time passed, the expectations from male customers grew, pushing Miki into a corner where her boundaries blurred. Each night, she balanced the line between making a living and compromising her self-worth, ultimately living a double life as both a student and an entertainer. For many, like Miki, the initial allure of hostess clubs fades, revealing emotional and physical exploitation that challenges their identity and autonomy. Japanese Yakuza. The Japanese Yakuza is a long-established crime group involved in extortion, drug trafficking, and gambling, which greatly affects vulnerable young women. Although their numbers have dropped from over 184,000 due to stricter laws in 2011, their association with tattoos has created widespread stigma in Japan, where many public spaces ban individuals with visible tattoos to deter gang members. Historically, tattoos were used as punishment during the Edo period, further reinforcing this negative perception. Beyond their criminal activities, the Yakuza's influence affects vulnerable young women, especially those facing societal pressures and limited opportunities. Many, struggling with stress and economic hardship, turn to risky jobs in hostess clubs or escort services, sometimes falling into the Yakuza's control. Salaryman culture in Japan. Ever wondered while watching Japanese dramas what it truly means to be a salaryman in Japan and the costs associated with such loyalty? And are women in Japan's corporate world genuinely breaking through the glass ceiling, or are they still facing entrenched barriers? The term salaryman evokes images of dedicated white-collar workers logging 12 to 18-hour days. Picture a salaryman squeezed into overcrowded trains, pushed by staff as stress builds for another day of relentless meetings and late-night emails. After work, his only escape is at izakayas or pachinko parlors, where they feel pressured to drink excessively with colleagues. Behind this friendly appearance, many suffer from severe health issues, with karoshi literally meaning death from overwork, highlighting the dangers of such commitment. In this male-dominated culture, women face unique challenges, including unwanted advances from superiors and pressure to join drinking gatherings, often leading to uncomfortable situations. Despite being qualified, they frequently earn less than men in similar roles, and their representation in leadership remains alarmingly low. As the workforce crumbles under the weight of these demands, alarming questions arise about the sustainability of this cultural norm and the true cost of loyalty in Japan's corporate world. This reality highlights the persistent gender inequality in Japan, revealing that while the country excels in innovation, its workplace culture still grapples with outdated norms that hinder true progress for women. Gender roles, exploitation, and discrimination. Japan, a society that values honor and respect, paradoxically allows exploitation and discrimination to thrive. Deep-rooted cultural norms, particularly traditional gender roles, disproportionately burden women, limiting their opportunities and pushing many into precarious situations. Discrimination in Japan is widespread, despite its reputation for hospitality. The country's homogeneous population often alienates those perceived as different, including hafu, half-Japanese individuals, and ethnic minorities like the Burakumin, Ainu, and Ryukyuans. Zainichi Koreans face challenges related to legal status and employment opportunities, while non-Japanese residents encounter prejudice in housing and job searches. Women experience a significant wage gap, limited career advancement, and workplace harassment, reflecting entrenched gender roles. The LGBTQ+ community, although safer than in some Asian countries, still faces social stigma and lacks legal recognition for same-gender relationships. Breaking the silence. The future for Japan's women. Can Japan break free from this cycle of exploitation? Recently, awareness of issues facing young women in Japan has grown. Activists and organizations are increasingly demanding changes to the educational system and labor market. Their voices are louder than ever, but the path to reform is long. Hina, a former hostess, now advocates for young women. After leaving the industry, she collaborates with organizations to provide counseling and financial support for those at risk of exploitation. Hina's efforts, along with those of others, offer a glimmer of hope. The conversation around gender equality and exploitation is slowly shifting. But until deep-rooted societal changes occur, young women will continue to suffer from Japan's darker side. Japan's balance of tradition and modernity often captivates the world. But beneath its enchanting surface, a complex web of social issues persists, from gender dynamics and discrimination to an aging population and work culture pressures. The darker side of Japanese society is as intricate as it is hidden. What are your thoughts on these issues? Does it change your perception of Japan's vibrant culture? Share your thoughts below. And last but not least, if you found this deep dive into Japan's hidden realities eye-opening, then you'll want to check out our other videos on the channel. We continue exploring the layers of a society that's often misunderstood, shedding light on what's truly happening behind the scenes. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more investigations into the unseen corners of the world.